Hi folks, welcome. There's something I really love and it's watching these Indian videos. They basically take trash, they make themselves the machines to start a business. Today I want to do the same thing, start my own business, making all the machines to create metal jigs for fishing. So our fishing lures and everything has to be very precise. Lucky for me, I have all the machines here in my shop. I have a CNC, a resin printer and a laser cutter, so I can machine and have the maximum precision about starting this process. So I want to recycle as well, so let's start with the first component. Let's move on to the computer. So in Fusion 360 I can start to design many shapes and connect them together to create the fish shape I really want. This is the lure, the starting point of this project. It's just a prototype. So to have a very attractive lure, we just have to think about a predator fish. So we know for sure that predator fish catch and bite the lures when they have a lot of vibration, but also visually when they reflect a lot of light. So I just searched and there's nothing like what I have in my mind in the market, and is to integrate a glass mirror directly into a LED lure. So this combination I think is the combo perfect for catching more fish, because the more light we can reflect underwater, the more fish we can attract from a longer distance. So the plan is to create like a shape so that I can integrate the glass mirror inside the LED itself. So that's the reason why I have this flat surface inside the lure, and these are the perfect dimension of this little mirror. So I can't wait to print it and see if everything fits perfectly. Let's see how. To make a flat surface in this very complicated 3D shape is very simple. I just have to extrude in the inside this rectangular shape. This is perfect, the perfect dimension of the glass mirror, and I also consider to add a little bit of epoxy so I can protect the silver shiny part of the mirror that doesn't mix properly with salt water, otherwise it would start to corrode and doesn't reflect the light anymore better. So you can see everything is shiny. I also represent eyes with the right dimension of some adhesive eyes I just bought, and I can import the file in my resin 3D slicer, and I just placed a couple of these fishing lures. So I can make a test, insert the file in my printer and start to add the resin and the print. Let's go.
It's down white boy.
So in less than 40 minutes I have my prototype printed. I don't know what happened with the printer, it started to print this strange column on the side, but overall my lure looks great. The surface is so smooth. I really love 3D resin printing because the result is incredible. We have so much definition and I can remove it without scratching too much the aluminum plate, and now it's crucial to remove also all the supports. I decided to place them here on the bottom just because it doesn't really matter if they leave a little bit of residue, but I can sand it smoothly using some sandpaper. But I cannot use sandpaper right now because the lure is still covered with resin. It's very sticky and I have to wash it and remove the excess of resin. So I can use this, that is a washer for objects of 3D printer. Probably you can find in the shop isopropylic alcohol, but here in Italy it's pretty difficult to find it, and the solution is to use this, that is a mix of gasoline and denatured alcohol that is much cheaper. So 50-50 ratio, and you can see it came out a huge mess, which means it's removing all the resin without problems. You can see also on the bottom we have little particles, and this was all the residue of resin that was sticked here on the side. Now that the resin is cleaner, I can sand it smooth and test if the mirror fits, and it fits perfectly. It's so shiny, and this was what I was looking for. Now, of course, I can sand it smoothly and make the things look nicer.
this came out great. Now I just have to mount a little mirror here on the flat surface, and the idea was to make this little lure vibrate and shake underwater, because the more it vibrates, the more reflection will create underwater and the more catchy it will be. So the plan was, so when I was designing this lure into Fusion 360, I designed the belly of this fish with this V shape. So let's think about this, about the shape of this fish that is sinking underwater. This doesn't really sink completely straight. This point will create some variation and start to shake the fish when it starts to go down underwater. So we can imagine that if we have a little mirror placed here on the top, this vibration will create a lot of light reflection underwater, and this is what really happens to the lure itself. It starts to shake and vibrate and create a lot of attraction light. So I think this can work, so let's move on. So the plan is to make something with this car jack to create a mold. This has to have a lot of force using these car jacks to apply a lot of pressure into a mold. And to keep the pressure of these jacks, I have to have a very solid structure. And to build it, I think I'm gonna need help from ChatGPT. Hi ChatGPT, I have to make a bridge and I have to apply a lot of force just in the middle of the bridge. Can you help me just to design a metal structure that can keep perfectly straight this bridge? Okay, that's great, but my plan is a little bit different. So I have to apply the force from the downside of the bridge. So imagine to apply a lot of balloons perfectly in the middle of this big bridge and help me to design a metal structure with a lot of beams, metal beams that can keep the bridge perfectly straight from the upside down.
So ChatGPT gave me this solution and I think it looks amazing. I am pretty sure this can hold up 5 tons of pressure without problems. I import the file in Fusion 360 and now I can insert it into my laser cutting machine so that I can make myself a jig to weld it in metal. Less than 6 minutes I have the jig ready. I can glue all the parts on a sacrificial board. Later on I will weld the stainless steel here directly on top, so this will become all burned up, but this doesn't matter, I will throw it away. This is just a jig for mounting all the parts perfectly. To make it very solid and make a very solid structure, I want to recycle this 10mm stainless steel chair structure, and I can just use the jig to understand the real dimension of each component. So after dismounting the structure, I can place the parts here and then mark where I have to apply all the cuts. So I repeat this procedure with all the other parts that form the structure itself. I'm just align them together, but I'm not weld them together right now, because to weld them, I also have to keep them straight there in place. Because you know already that if you start to weld things, it will bend and move due to the overheat. So it's also very important to apply pressure with some clamp, and I'm using my fixture table for this. So you can see that it's taking shape, and it was so easy taking this job with this approach. So it's just like a game, like a puzzle. I have to just connect the part and weld them together, and the structure is coming amazing. I think it looks like something you can buy in the shop, and this will be the beam structure that will hold up the pressure from the car jack that is pushing from the downside. So now it's just a matter of thinking about all the other parts that will hold up the structure. And for this, I'm using this that was a base from a coffee table, and I want to cut it precisely, and I'm using this plasma cutting machine. I reviewed this a couple of videos ago and it works amazingly, so why don't use it also for this purpose? It takes so less time to make this cut. Unfortunately, my compressor is too small and I have to, yeah, you see, there's a huge problem. But overall, I have all the parts I need. So this will be the base and this will be the top. And I'm cutting other legs from other chairs to make the structure. My fixer table also helped me to align perfectly the parts. And this basically is the structure that will hold the car jack, the the heating elements and everything that I'm going to show you. So you can see now that the reinforcing beams fits perfectly, has the right dimension of the metal base I mount here, and I take some magnet squares to hold it perfectly aligned, 90 degrees. So I just have to put some welds here, and I think there are no problems with this procedure. So this project is coming so easy thanks to all the technology I'm using, but I'm pretty sure that if you don't have a laser cutting machine, you can just print it on a paper and just trace the shape like me. So this is the shape overall, and it looks so nice. I just have to paint away and protect all the welds so it doesn't get rusty later on. But don't forget that we are making all this structure to push against some heating elements. Heating elements that I want to recycle from these that are irons for clothes. So I was so lucky to find a couple of them that are the exact same model at a local market, and I have to modify them. Inside of them there is a thermostat that basically switch off the current once the heating element reach the design temperature. For example, this is 100 degrees temperature, and this basically expand and move the switch and close it and open it by itself just due to the expanding metal. So I have to remove it and switch it with something else. But now let's think about how to connect properly all the parts. So after cutting the base, I have something that has a better shape. I also cut this that is a metal shape that represent the mounting points of the irons.
Oh, these irons are perfect for this purpose, are made in aluminum so they can transfer heat perfectly. Talking about heat transfer, I don't want to waste the heat of these elements into the metal structure I just built, so I need to isolate the parts, and to do this I need for sure to place some little components just to keep a little distance between the two parts, and of course place some wall, ceramic wall that can keep all the heat away from the two parts so I don't waste energy and heat. So let's weld the parts together to keep the right distance.
Unfortunately, my irons are made with aluminum, so I have to weld the parts on this that is the stainless steel base. I also made and fabricated myself this that is a third arm. Basically, it's just a weight holding a little nail, and the nail helps me to keep the pieces perfectly straight, even if I'm weld them, doesn't move at all. So this is a very nice trick, something very cool to have, and I'm going to keep it here in my shop for sure. You can see that all the spacers are just evenly spaced, which means that I have a good footprint that can dissipate and evenly the pressure. So I bought these that are little computers, basically are PIDs, which means they can read the temperature thanks to this little sensor and keep the temperature precisely if we choose one temperature and keep it there. So I mount it directly here in the middle of the structure, and I can isolate everything with this ceramic wall. Be careful, this can be very dangerous to breathe the fibers, so I handle it very carefully, and I can mount it directly here in the middle. For the heating element that is going to be placed on the bottom side, I bought this. It is a much more powerful iron, and I can mount it directly on the car jack. This is a little bit tricky, and I don't know how to proceed, and I just made this that is a rendering file, so I'm sure that all the measurements are taken right. I can remove the handle, remove also here the thermostat, and insert a new PID. I flattened the surface using my angle grinder, and I also made a stainless steel base. Because remember, we are pushing 5 tons of pressure, I want to have a very even space pressure.
So all the heating parts and the structure is ready. I just have to push and press the parts. And for to do this, I have this huge car jack. This is a 5 tons car jack, and it's huge. But I don't really like it because I don't have a feedback on how much pressure I'm applying, because I don't feel with my hands how hard it gets when it's lifting. So I think I'm going to replace this hydraulic jack with this screw jack, which works great as well. This is a almost 2 tons jack, and I really can feel with my hands the pinion getting harder the more I push against it. And what I have to do now is just weld this that is the heating element of the iron here on top. So this will push above the structure and will compress the mold and cook it. So yeah, I think it will work.
So now let's connect everything electrically. So we have two PIDs. You find a link here on Amazon, and I just made by myself this container box so that I can keep all the cables tight and much more organized. Basically, I just have to bring some power to these PIDs, and the PIDs gives electricity to some solid state relays. So basically, this gives power if we really need power to keep the heating element at the right temperature. I paint everything with a bright red, and also the car jack gets painted.
And so finally here is the machine ready. We have the two PIDs that read the temperature, are set at 160 degrees, and we have the car jack that is ready to apply a lot of pressure. But this is made for impressing rubber, just raw rubber that I have here, a piece. This is rubber that is just raw rubber, so it's very, very fragile. I can just cut it with my fingers. I have to vulcanize it to take his properties and to take, of course, the shape of the object I want to place between. I'm going to make like a sandwich and press it and heat it, so it will take all the small details of this lure. To do this, I cannot place the rubber here between the two parts. I absolutely need to have like a box where to place everything so the rubber plays perfectly inside. I cannot put this rubber directly into the two irons. I have to build a little box so that I can keep the rubber perfectly inside and press it hardly. And so here is the result. We have the female box and the male compression section. This is a full body, completely full of aluminum, so I can transfer the heat as better as I can, and the two parts fit perfectly together. I just have to put the rubber inside and also the lure. So let me show you.
Basically, it's like a sandwich, but with inside some paper covered with wax and the fishing lure made with resin. I don't know, maybe this is the first test. I hope that this paper covered with wax helped me to release the two parts, but we will see later on the final result. Now I can press the parts together.
It's so funny for me having finally a proper mold in my hand. Until now I experiment trying to make molds just using concrete or chalk or anything that I can mold molted lead inside. And finally I have something that looks professional. And this is the first prototype, the first experiment trying to vulcanize rubber, taking the shape of my jig. Unfortunately, this was the first time I made a huge mistake. I'm talking about this mistake that was letting the rubber stay for too long time inside the heating elements. And this cook as well the resin, the jig, and this destroyed the surface of the jig. And you can clearly see that it looks like burned wood, and this is terrible because we want to have more details as possible of also the surface of the jig. So this was 40-minute vulcanized rubber, and this instead is the same rubber, but I took it away from the press much earlier. I'm only 15 minutes, and you can clearly see that this looks much better. We have the perfect surface, and also we can see all the details of the eyes, of the face of the fish, of course, and also the flat surface where I can mount the little mirror. So consider this is this will be a mold where I can pour inside molten lead. So I think this will work. I just have to make another mold where I also add a little spore, like a V shape, so that I can pour all the molten lead inside. But overall, I think this works great, and this is a homemade vulcanized press. I really think that this can be for inspiration for you as well, for starting a business, not only for fabricating jigs, but also for fabricating little jewelry, because this machine is the same they use to make rings or a bracelet or anything, necklace, and anything that is made with gold or silver or any precious metal. So this is the first machine. Next week we're going to make like a centrifugal machine or maybe something to melt lead, so that we can start to produce and start a business. So this isn't the first time I make video about fishing lures. A couple of weeks ago we made also this, that was a video where you can cure up and speed up the curing time of regular silicone. So check this trick as well, and also the previous week. So check this video and also the previous one of last week. So check it out and see you soon with another do-it-yourself tutorial. Ciao, ciao.